This is a spectacular location that we're at right now. What you're looking at right here is the ruins of a Byzantine church. Byzantine is late Roman, after the time Constantine became a Christian, right in the early part of the 4th century. And what you're seeing in the background, way back there, that's the Sea of Galilee, about 1,000 feet below us, and across the sea you see this great big city, the city of Tiberias, which goes all the way back to the time of Jesus, and of course named after the Emperor Tiberius. But this church is the most interesting thing, because we're in a place called Hippos Susita, which is a Decapolis city, one of 10 cities that was east of the Jordan River, well, except for one, a city called Beit Shan. If you've been to Israel, you've probably been to that city. But this particular place happens to be built in this beautiful view in this ancient ruin, and this is a Byzantine church. So the people set up churches here of 500, 400 years after the time of Jesus. But this one is very special because as you happen to look at the church here, you see the ground and it's all dirty and everything. Well, that's covered up. That's just been covered up. And what's underneath there is a magnificent mosaic. It goes over here. It's under the altar of the church, which is over in this area here. Once again, all covered up. But part of it that isn't covered right now is this. And as you can see right there, you have this amazing mosaic of these 2 fish. Now, there were more fish. There's a lot more underneath this mosaic here. And there are also loaves. This church commemorated the feeding of the 5,000. And that took place not here, not at Hippos Susita, not even in this part of the lake, but further north, about 8 or 9 miles north, near a place called Bethsaida. But this church is close enough where the people who founded the church put mosaics here to let people know that this is in commemoration of Jesus' great miracle of feeding the 5,000. But I want to tell you about another feeding that happened near here too. And that was the feeding of the 4,000. It's also found in Matthew a couple of chapters after the feeding of the 5. And it happened closer to this location with more bread, fewer fish. And Jesus fed 4,000 people plus their wives and children. Of course, it numbers the men only in such cases. Now, with that in mind, right near here, and actually right behind me at the Sea of Galilee, way down there, as you can see it, on the shoreline, Jesus at one point pulled ashore with his guys with the boat. And of course, they landed on the shore and are attacked immediately by 2 demon-possessed men, one of whom is sort of the spokesman for the group, and the other one, of course, seems to remain silent, but they're filled with demons. And when Jesus asked, "Who are you?" or "What is your name?" he said, "We are Legion," which means like 6,000 demons. So we're talking, the guy is just radically, desperately possessed. He's naked, he's filthy, he's covered with open wounds, he's been cutting himself. I mean, it's just in a terrible, terrible condition. And Jesus casts the demons out of this guy and sends them down into the lake, into pigs rather, that actually charge down into the lake, and all the pigs are drowned. First of all, what are they doing with pigs over here? And they're being raised by Jews. Jesus is in the land of the Gadarenes, which is where I'm filming this right now. It's the place where Gad settled when the children of Israel came into the land. They decided not to cross the Jordan. So they stayed here. This is the land of Gad, or the land of the Gadarenes. But sometimes you find that it's also known as the land of the Gerasenes. And the Gerasenes lived over here in a place called Jerash, about 15 miles away. So it's also another Decapolis city. And Decapolis cities were pagan cities. They were pagan centers. You would have Jews in there, but you would also have temples to Zeus and Aphrodite and all kinds of people like this particular city used to have. So they were Greek, and the Jews that lived here thought like Greeks, acted like Greeks, and weren't very kosher, which is why the Gadarenes raised pigs down along these hills and the slopes of these hills. And that's why the demons could be sent into the pigs and they could rush down. The people here in these places ate swine, they ate ham, they ate pork. But it's possible also that the Hellenized Jews, the Jews that were sort of Greekized, for lack of a better term, were also ones who ate that type of food. Now, that explains one thing. But what about this demon-possessed man? What happened to him? And where did he go? Well, it turns out when he is completely cleansed of these demons, Jesus cast them all out. And then he brings them back to him, back to the people. And the people from this area rush down to see what had happened because all their pigs are gone. That was their means of support. The man is sitting there clothed, clean, and in his right mind. The man desperately wants to follow Jesus. The people want Jesus out of the country because he destroyed their pigs. He destroyed the swine. And of course, they didn't like that one little bit. But the man himself, of course, he wants to follow Jesus. He's probably illiterate. He's probably just a peasant. He's got nothing. Everybody's rejected him. He's been demon-possessed. He's been shamed. And yet, he wants to follow Jesus with his whole heart. And Jesus says, no, you can't do that. So, what is this all about? Well, it turns out that Jesus told the man, go back and tell the people what had been done to you. That was right at the foot of this city. And it tells us that the man went through the Decapolis cities and told people what Jesus had done. And what's beautiful about it is that it was after that happened that the feeding of the 4,000 happened right in this immediate area somewhere. It may be because of his testimony that all those people showed up to hear Jesus, and who knows what all came of that, because so many people got fed, so many people got blessed, and so many people ended up following him just because of that. Perhaps even because of this demon-possessed man. So here we are at this church that commemorates the feeding of the 5,000, and it's really quite a place. As you look at it, there's not much to see here, but it is totally amazing. And of course, that tremendous mosaic, which is just being uncovered and has been recovered just to protect it. That's what the archaeologists will do. They will recover things just to make sure that they're not damaged and that tourists don't get in there and pick them all apart. But here are the fish from the chapel of the loaves and fishes here in Hippo Susita.